Right, welcome back YouTube. Today is upper day. I don't call it push-pull legs anymore, I call it upper density legs. But the split is still the same, so now it goes upper density rest, legs rest. So basically just a variation of push-pull, rest, legs rest, because it is the best split if you want to be big. That is why someone like Nick Walker has now gone back to it, because he realises that it is the peak of all splits in order to keep him looking as big as he possibly can do. So today is upper day, which means I have a mixture of shoulders, rear delts, a little bit of chest, a little bit of triceps, a little bit of biceps, so basically just a little bit of everything. I will go through the session and all of its exercises as I go through the session. I'll break down things as we always do, and if there's anything that you ever have any questions on, please do fire it below so that I can get back to you or potentially do a different video based on something that you've asked. So I set up my logbook in order for me to be able to have about 6 to 7 weeks worth of progress just on one page. It just means that then I'm not flicking backwards and forwards, it's all there ready for me on one page so that I can literally go, right, last session I did that weight with those numbers, what do I need to get next time? I've actually just been putting it together again on the page just because I have finished my last block of kind of 6 to 7 weeks before moving on to kind of this block. So what I can do is flick back a few pages, it's a bit broken, and see what I did the last 6 weeks for me to then obviously focus on what the next 6 weeks will look like. Obviously I'm in prep now, so progressions in the gym probably aren't going to be as frequent, probably aren't going to be as much as what we would usually see in an off season, but we should still see some, and we should definitely still see performance stay exactly the same, if not still improve a little bit at the moment, whilst body fat levels still aren't ridiculously low. So that's pretty much how it looks. I have my exercises down this side, and then it has 6 to 7 weeks across in terms of progressions each week, so it's just easy for me to be able to see. Not everybody likes to logbook, that's fair enough, do what you want to do. I like to have the challenge of making sure my progressions in the gym are happening, to give myself that really nice challenge whilst I'm in there, because I like to feel like things are moving forward. I don't like just plodding along, so that's why I use the logbook, and I find it a really effective tool. Trained by JP have brought out some new clothes, which is almost like an ombre. There's a few jumpers, t-shirts, tracksuits, all there matching. You want to get some good products. Next thing you like it like that. Somebody else. Oh. Anyway, this exercise fun. The line cable wire resistance. I love this movement. I think it's a social doubt exercise. I like to call it the doubt destroyer. That's it. Because that's what it feels like it does before you even start the session, which is great because the connection that you get on the presses off the back of just getting a really nice pump from this movement was amazing. So with this one, obviously you don't have to use a fancy cable machine like I do. You can literally just use a normal cable. But I use this because it's here and I quite like it. And what we want to do is before you sum up every rep, you're thinking about keeping the fist pointing it towards the ceiling, but make sure they're in line with your fellow buttons. You get out of the ceiling high, you get a really nice stretch of the belt. Before you start each rep, think about the first shot, take move up towards the pyramid, and then reach out. If you keep your shoulders on the speech in this pocket and do the first track tick, you get a lot of fat. You're only going to get a little bit of trap. Station first track with them pumping that. As you lose down into the wide position, you will get more belt depending on what match you're on. much a burn. My intra-workout fuel, of course, is the Sustain from Train by JP. I use the mango, I think it's mango and orange for flavour. Very nice, it's very refreshing. Kuba has the performance fuel in his, I think that he has the mango and orange in the performance fuel, but I use the Sustain. This digests a lot better for me than any other carb powder, so that's why I use it, and it tastes lovely, so that's good. Meg 10. For dip clown. With me being in prep now, not that I take any reps that are super risky, but definitely when I'm in prep, I get rid of things like partials or any reps that are a tiny little bit risky. Like in an off season, you might see me do a shoulder press and I might only get halfway up. It's just really negative returns that you get from that when you do competition prep. Because if you to take reps like that, it definitely does take away from the rest of the session's recovery. So when I'm in prep, you won't ever really see me take reps like that. I don't do a lot of partials either. I just like to do complete sets to mechanical failure and leave it there. And it tends to keep my recovery in a good spot. Progression, maintenance and strength in a much better place, which tends to then keep the actual mass and my body's looking and feeling much better. I wear elbow sleeves and knee sleeves because I have old joints. Just from years of sport, my joints are a little bit battered, so I use them just to make my joints feel a bit warmer, which feels really nice. I always use very thin single ply because if you use thick sleeves, both knee and elbows, it does help, I believe, in making the movement just a little bit easier because you get that little spring, especially when you use the really thick ones. The one thing that I don't trust that you should use is knee wraps, because what a knee wrap does is it stops your kneecap from moving. Obviously, if you're a powerlifter and you're using a knee wrap and you just do one squat, etc., is it going to do a massive amount of hurting the joint? Probably not, no. But overuse over time, especially if you're a bodybuilder and you're doing reps upon reps, it is going to be really bad for your knee joints. You do tend to find that people who do use knee wraps quite often end up with quite bad knee problems as they get further down the line. Make sure that you allow for good range of motion, good tempo. It will keep your knees, your elbows really fresh. It will keep them riskier free. I'm not going to say completely free of injuries. So make sure that obviously you go through training for a long time. Longevity is everything, and that doesn't just go for bodybuilding, that goes for life beyond bodybuilding. So make sure you're doing everything to keep your body as fresh and as good as possible. So, first compound of the session is the Atlantis press. Kuba and his team at Nitrum have made a little arm to go on the Atlantis press to make the resistance curve much better, and it obviously makes it a little bit heavier because it has more meat on it because there's extra metal. It actually feels much better, but definitely way harder, especially on the lockout, which is quite nice because it's always been quite heavy in that stretch position, but not always in the shortened ring. Yeah, I was right. So that's kind of what it's done. It's just made that resistance curve much more balanced from top to bottom. So here, we're going to try and get an extra rep compared to last time. Not to the sacrifice of form, because obviously I am leaner than I was last time, given the fact that I am back into a deficit. and I do tend to find that push and pressing is the one thing to go, so I don't want to risk it for a chocolate biscuit. That was good. It's an extra rep. Oh, what a bastard. Right. Third movement is the strive incline press. We've just done a shoulder press, now we have an incline press. This is a very high incline press, so yes, I am getting a lot of delt, but I am getting a little bit more pep compared to the shoulder press. I like this movement. I do find it very hard to progress. I don't know why. Maybe because it's very, very similar to almost the first exercise that I do, that I then find this movement a little bit harder to progress. But this machine's just, it's heavy, but almost heavy just in all the right places. So it just makes it harder, which is not a bad thing at all. So progression on this is slow, but that is fine. I don't expect things to progress super well whilst I am in prep anyway, especially given the fact that it is my second press. But regardless of it, we still give his absolute best. Push to failure, keep the intensity high, and make sure we do some good sets. I don't know how I just got that last press up. I think that a little gremlin just came from inside of me and pushed those handles up. Next movement is the prime dip. This is my kind of tricep slash chest isolation slash front delt. I love a dip. I do like a bodyweight dip, but I do tend to find that bodyweight dips die off a little bit, especially if you do them kind of midway through your session when you are dieting. So I usually keep them more so for off season, but it's the machine variety today. So what I do here is I keep my chest slightly over my hips. That's so that I can target my front delt a little bit as I do push down. If you do keep your chest a little bit more upright, you are going to target your tricep a lot more than your front delt. Not that you aren't going to use it. Again, it's still a muscle that is going to work. But for me, because I want some big front 3D delts, but I also need a little bit of tricep. That's why I'm keeping my chest over my hips. Don't allow for your chest to kind of move up and down whilst you are doing it. That will create momentum. It will make the movement easier. A really, really common mistake that I see a lot of people do when they do a dip, whether that be body weight or on a machine is they try to almost bring their elbows back towards each other, so they almost like cave in and they can't get full range of motion. You'd want to think about your elbows going straight up towards the ceiling, so you almost drive back and a tiny little bit out to be able to get the movement going up whilst keeping your shoulder in an okay position rather than trying to restrict it a little bit as you pull them together. So elbows literally thinking about they're going straight up towards the ceiling, nice and slow, going past 90 degrees into that nice deep stretch, pausing and then driving back through. You don't want to allow for your shoulders to shoot forwards a lot when you do straighten your arms, because then you'll take tension away from almost the front delt from doing a lot when it goes into that kind of shortened full lockout. And the other thing that you also don't want to do, or you do want to do, sorry, is when you do drive the elbows back and up, you can allow for your shoulders to almost retract a little bit, because it does allow for a little bit more range and a little bit more stretch into that kind of end position. That was hard. Don't be afraid to take a step back to take 2 steps forwards. When it comes to progressions with load on sets, you're not going to continually see your movements progress all the time. Sometimes you hit a bit of a sticking point, sometimes you hit a little bit of a plateau. At that point, people get fed up and just move on. Persevere. Take a little bit of a step back, take a load down a little bit, tidy up your form, maybe add a little bit of an extra pause in the stretch position to create a little bit of a different challenge for a while, and then come back to the initial and start to try and push past that plateau. It takes time to build up weight, it takes time to build up reps, it takes time to build things up and keep form right, because it's hard. So persevere and progress will happen, and if you can get stronger, I promise you'll actually get bigger as well. I feel like I can't breathe in my sets. It's not because I'm an assisted bodybuilder, it's because it's warm. Next exercise is the rear delt cable fly. I prefer the cable fly compared to any machine. I don't know if it's because I'm short or whatnot, or that I'm not very wide-ish, but I can never really get a really nice stretch. You'll have to comment below if you can get a nice stretch on the machine. Looks like Kuba can when he does it, because he's a lot wider than what I am, but I just never can get like a really nice stretch. Whereas on the cable, there's like no end to the stretch that you can possibly get on a cable when you stood there doing a reverse fly. So I really like it. I like to have the cable just above headline, just above line with my head, and then as I come down, or as I come out, I drive my arms down. Now obviously then it's almost in line then with the way in which your muscle actually works or moves for your rear delt. So that's what I like to do. When I do drive my hands out, I make sure that my shoulders do not pull back towards each other, and definitely don't shrug up. If you shrug up, you get a lot of traps. You should pull the shoulders back as the arm reach out, you get a lot more mid-back slash track than you do rear delt. Even if you're doing an isolation movement, it doesn't mean that it needs to be less intense than a compound movement. People don't put as much effort into their kind of laterals, leg extensions, leg curls as they do into their squat, shoulder presses, etc. If you don't, you're pulling away from your own progress. Put as much emphasis and effort into movements like this as you do on your compound lifts. Fair enough, they're not as hard, but they require just as much intensity to be able to make the progress that you want to make. Movement is the cable side laterals. The first two sets I do behind body. The last set I just do a normal cable sideways, but no other movement there. I like both and I wanted to have both in my session, but I do tend to find that the behind the body gets a really nice stretch onto my side delt. I do find that I almost feel like my front delt gets a little bit involved because when I pull my arm obviously out, I try to keep it to the front of my body so it almost comes forwards a little bit, which then does get my front delt a little bit. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. And then the single sideways, I just like that because right at the end of the session when I've kind of fatigued my shoulders, it's really nice to get a little pump into my side delts just from some normal cable sideways. So that's why I do basically both in one exercise, just because I like them. So the last two movements are actually a superset. I have tricep extension and bicep curls. I don't really need any more arm, but it's not an area that I shouldn't have, so there should be some mass there, but I just don't need them to get bigger, so it's almost about maintenance, I guess you could say, when it comes to this specific body part, which is why they haven't got kind of sets individual on their own, if that makes sense. They are just supersetted, and it's just to get a little bit of stimulus there, so I still have a little bit of arm. If you look back to my pull video that will have been uploaded to my YouTube just before, if you are someone who does a class like mine, who doesn't really require an arm, and you get told that you have too much arm, it's probably because you are using your arms more so on other movements. Things like lat pull downs, upper back rows, etc. Head over to my other video, have a check of that one, and learn how to train your back effectively rather than using your arms so that you get no feedback about having big arms. that's the main body of my session done. My session was great. My tricep dips lost a rep. My side laterals lost a rep. But it's to be expected when obviously foods are a little bit lower, recovery's a little bit kind of, I'm not going to say it's bad because I'm not that lean, but it's not as good as what it was a few weeks ago. When it comes to push or upper sessions, they are quite meaty in terms of there is a little bit of volume. There's like 3 sets on my first exercise, 2 sets on my other ones, 3 sets on my other laterals. So some little bits are bound to go a little, but the session was still productive. The session was still very good. I still took everything to failure. Everything was still very intense. I'm really happy with the actual performance and how things felt as well. So looking forward to pull tomorrow and just keeping on churning. Hopefully body weight and stuff starts to move even more and the look just continues to kind of develop, and hopefully we can bring something really good and maybe a little bit improved to the start of the year for the Olympia as well. That's the most important thing for me for this competition, because obviously I know that I'm not going to be in the running for being extra competitive, but that doesn't mean that my kind of focus isn't to win. It's just a different type of win for me. Anyway, I'm going to do some calves, I'm going to do some abs. You're not going to see it because it's really boring. So please like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know if you've got any questions or anything that you'd like me to cover, and I'll see you for another session.